All right. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, or wherever we are. I'm actually out in Georgia this week at a client site, so they're graciously allowing me to use one of their conference rooms for this webinar. So thank them for that. So we're going to take a look at some of the new features in Business Central Wave 1 2023 that was, as John mentioned, was released on April 1st, and it'll anybody bought new licenses or had as a new customer would have already gotten this version. And the rollouts are going to start coming probably next week on the upgrades. So we want to get through some of these features and some of the new things and let you see what's coming. So I'm going to first share my screen. I got a slide deck here, and we'll kind of go between the slide deck and the and Business Central itself. And let me see if I can get that into presentation mode. And of course, it opened on the wrong screen. Okay. All right. So let's start at the very beginning. So application updates for Wave 1 2023. So I'm going to start with
Hey,
some
Mark,
general updates.
I'm still not seeing anything yet.
You're not seeing anything yet. Okay.
Yeah, looks like maybe I'm still presenting, or
It Teams is acting like it's showing my screen. That's for sure.
okay. Well, maybe it's just me then.
I mean, I've got a little red box around my screen. So do you still show a screen share on your end, John? Like, is your screen share still turned on?
For me, it shows it just says bring presenter on screen and share content. So I guess I'm seeing something else. But it looks like everybody else has seen it. Okay, so there it goes, or there it went. But hey, keep on going. Don't let me stop you then.
Okay. All right. Now it's important because unfortunately, about half the time I forget to share my screen when I'm doing this stuff. So people are like, share your screen. Okay. So we're gonna run through some general application updates, then jump into some finance updates, and then a few operations updates, and kind of keep going down the road. There is a lot to cover. We just came back from Directions, Microsoft's partner geared conference, or partner run conference that Microsoft attends. I should say it that way. They took about 2.5 to 3 hours in their keynote to cover most of these topics. So we're definitely doing an abbreviated session, and we'll get through what we can, and may have some other sessions later or some recordings to cover some of the smaller but important features. So first of all, I'm just going to run through the list, and then we'll kind of hop over into BC and kind of take a look at each of them. So one, we're now able to synchronize master data across companies. So if you're working in a multi-company environment in Business Central, you can now define one company as your main company and decide what types of data you want to synchronize between or pull from that company into your subsidiaries. So we'll kind of walk through that setup and just show how we configure that. Key links. One of the big, requests from Microsoft is to be able to do more through the keyboard without having to navigate with the mouse. So we've got key links now that will allow keyboard navigation to just about every screen. We'll show that. Posting group columns have been added to nearly all document line sections. So you purchase order lines, sales order lines. So we have that, business posting group and product posting group. And so those are added to the pages now. Some of you may already have those because a lot of times we add those as part of an implementation with some light system tailoring, but now those are part of the base application. We've got preview posted added to about 20 new journals. And most of them are supply chain journals. That preview posting function was available. If you were doing an AP invoice or a general journal, well, now we'll see it like on item journals and physical inventory journals and things like that. So you can see what's going to happen before you push the button. We can drag and drop to upload attachments. We've got some better action bar navigation and some better personalization options. Quite a bit of improvement on OneDrive and the integration to Excel. And then, because everyone's talking about it, we need to talk about AI a little bit in Microsoft's Copilot, because it has been lightly introduced into BC in preview mode only, meaning that it's not available for a production environment. It's just available for your sandbox environment. but we'll show what it does, and talk about that a little bit when we get there. So let's hop over into BC, kind of run through these real quick. So just starting off with the with that synchronization process, I'm in a subsidiary company, and so if I click on my magnifying glass or hit Alt Q to bring up the search button, I can search for master data. We see our master data management setup. Now, the first time you go to this page, your enabled data synchronization will be turned off, and many of these will be grayed out. I've turned it on, so they become available. There are default tables that are set up to synchronize. It's your choice whether you want to or not. You can enable it or disable those tables. So, for example, the contact table or the customer table or your posting group tables are set up to synchronize. In this example, I can also go in and say, maybe I want to filter. I don't want to pull all contacts, for example. I just want to pull contacts where it's a person and the company number is blank. Or I want to pull customers, but I don't want to pull all customers. I just want to pull customers where the blocked field is blank. Because we can block customers from shipping or block them from invoicing or block them from all types of transactions. So we just want to pull the open customers and synchronize those between the companies. If we wanted to add a new something new, maybe we wanted to synchronize say jobs, we could go in and get down here to the last. Get back out of this page. I think I got myself, I clicked on something too quick with my touchpad. I can click new, and I can search for, say I want to synchronize the job table between companies. I can select job, and then it's going to ask me, what do you want to synchronize? You can go through and pick all the tables that you want to synchronize and add that, and then add that job table, the job table synchronization to your sync between your subsidiary and your master data, your master company. So how does that work? It's done through job queues. So every one of these tables will then have a job queue entry that's automatically set up, and those can be scheduled to run whenever you need them to. Right. So maybe you want to, synchronize over the customers, and you want to do that once a day at 11 o'clock at night. Maybe you want to synchronize the zip code or postcode table once a week. So you can, but the system will set up those job queues for you automatically as you're setting up the synchronization. So then you can just go in and schedule it. So that's a quick view of the master data management setup and how those synchronization processes are configured. So I'm going to flip over to my kind of main company. And just a little side note, a couple of things. One, if you have a little like a company indicator, a little badge set up in company information, we can now, before we can only do 4 characters. Now we can do 6. It's kind of wrapped. And then just as a little FYI, you notice that some of these are boxes, and then down here, some of these are dots. If it's a production environment, they're circles. If it's a sandbox, it's a box. So just a little visual indicator as you're going to that company switcher. If you have a sandbox environment set up, those will be, more visual with a little sandbox icon. So we flip over to my production company, or my main company, I should say. So let's look at key links, and this is real simple. If you press the Alt key, we will now see shortcut values come up. So if I wanted to go to the vendor list, I just hit V. That's going to take me to the vendor list. So without, doing any sort of navigation with a mouse, I'm just simply clicking on the Alt key. It brings up the shortcuts. If I wanted to go into more one of the drop-down menus, like under the purchasing menu, I could just type JP. That's going to pull up the drop-down for the purchasing menu. And then if I wanted to go to my purchase orders, and if I want to go to orders, I hit O, leave. Oh, it already went there. It takes me to my purchase order list. So there's still some navigation by mouse, right? You may have to go down, you may want to go down the list and click on, you have to go select one. But you can get to those screens quicker just by keeping your hands on the keyboard. You don't have to dragging your mouse all around to get to different menus, just Alt and keystrokes to get to where you want to go. The posting groups, as I mentioned before, have been added to all the documents. So if we look at, say, a purchase order, typically we don't have the business posting group and product posting available on the lines, but they are available now, and they're available through personalized. They're not there out of the box. They're left off the screen, but through just using that very simple personalized function that we all know and use all the time, we can go down and click on the line section, and you can hit add field, and from there you can search for those posting group fields and drag them over. And that's can be important if that's going to change the behavior of where transactions go, right? As maybe you have a sales order that's a warranty sales order, so you may not want to record that. You want to record that cost of sales, if you will, to a different GL account, more for warranty purposes than for your true cost of sales. So you could simply change that product posting group to that warranty product posting group, and now we're going to kind of navigate through the general ledger a little differently when we post those transactions. And in the past, those weren't there, and we'd have to do a little customization or a little system tailoring to bring those onto the page for you. And now they're just available for you to add. We have the preview posting available on a large number of supply chain related journals now. So just as an example, on the item journal, here's our preview posting function, which wasn't there before. Click on that, and I might have slid my mouse. Preview posting. There we go. And now we get that sneak peek on what's going to happen when we post this journal, right? So we can see our GL entries and what accounts are being impacted by that posting of that journal, see our value entries and what's going to happen with those adjustments. And that's particularly useful if you're doing large journals and you just didn't have the visibility into before. You could do a test report, but it more showed you could the journal post. It wasn't telling you all the tables and all the different entry tables it was going to affect. We've got some improvements in the action bar. And so, our action bars have been, Microsoft has been working hard on, modernizing that action bar just to make it more user-friendly. Things, the menus, while they're jumping around a little bit, Microsoft's moving things around, but they're trying to make it more efficient. They're using some of the tools that are available to them in the cloud to see what people are doing in the application and how they're using it, and can therefore kind of gear the front end more towards what people are doing on a day-to-day basis. So for example, if we look at the customer card, if you've been in BC for a little while, you've probably seen this, that you have these menus over here, and you got a customer menu with all of these options, and then you would go into related, and there'd be another customer option with all of those options, and it was just redundant and just extra navigation to skip around through things. Well, now they're still on the page because they are required to be there technically for them to show here, but we've hidden the menu, so it's not visible. And again, just makes it more efficient to use. So if something's on the left side of the bar, it's not going to be on the right side of the bar. So you don't have to worry about jumping around between menus and trying to figure out where something is. And that type of optimization has been done to 180 of the most used pages in Business Central. So it's throughout the application that we've done what we can to make the navigation more efficient. And those efficiencies are just going to keep coming and coming as Microsoft keeps track of what people are doing. Another thing that we can do now through personalization that we couldn't do before. I go to personalize, drop down on my actions, and I can start moving actions around. So I can, it's a bad option under there. Let's go to functions and other, and merge with, and maybe I wanted that over here. I could drag it around and put it over under a different menu. We didn't have those options before. We could show it and hide it, but now we have the ability to drag things around and put them where we want them. So if I want to Under history, if I want statistics by currencies and I want it to be under customer, I can just left click on that and drag it over and drop it, and that moves it here for me. And of course, you can those same features are available in the profile creator. So if you have someone that is creating custom profiles for groups, and kind of tailoring these profiles to make them a little more consistent across the department, those same functions and those personalized functions are available for that. So just again, some simple improvements, but it's another way to help you do more self-service so that you can use the application the way you need to as an end user. From an integration perspective with OneDrive, there's in the, you may have saw, you may have noticed, or you may have used it in the last version, but we could set up cloud storage for your user and automatically download attachments to that cloud storage, things like that. Well, now we're taking that a bit further, and through a very simple setup, like a two-click setup in BC, if I can now, when I go to edit or say open in Excel, and we've all done this, I'm sure. You're on an entry page and you want to get some transactions into Excel, and you do the tried and true open in Excel. It creates a file and it puts it in your downloads folder, and then you got to go open the downloads folder because you didn't click on it quick enough, and then you got to go find the file and open it, and then it opens it in Excel locally. Well, now if we turn on the OneDrive integration, when I do open in Excel or edit in Excel, both, now we're opening in Excel Online immediately. And from there, we have the full functionality of Excel, just like we would, if you were in the desktop version of Excel. We also have the ability to very simply share this now. Share it to Teams, share it with a person, copy the link and email it to somebody, whatever it is. It's a very quick collaboration as opposed to kind of going through those extra, mechanics of downloading the file, uploading, or opening the file, closing the file. Which version was it? Because you get the general ledger entries parentheses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I mean that still happens because we're opening in Excel Online, but the Excel Online just opens immediately, so we don't have to go through those extra steps. And lastly, just for the general, kind of the general application changes, I'm gonna hop in here to an item card, and we're gonna talk about Microsoft Copilot and AI a little bit. If I look at my Paris desk, or Paris guest chair, excuse me. This is only in preview, so it is not in production. It's only in sandbox environments. We have a section down here called marketing text where we can create some marketing text with Copilot. And this is an AI piece, and I think it's important that word Copilot is important because it's not autopilot. The system is not just going to go out and create some sort of marketing text that you could put on brochures automatically and make it just happen. One, you have to do it, and two, you have to review it. So if I hit create draft here, the system is going to read some attributes off the chair, and it's going to create some marketing text for me. If I go off this item card and come back to it, it's gone because a human hasn't reviewed it. I haven't looked at it and checked it out and made sure that's exactly what I want to say. So we'll do this again. And now we'll do review and save. So now I have, different verbiage. It's a different description. Each time you do it, it just comes up with a different description because it's a natural language model. I can go in and do some editing and bold things, highlight things, change wording. I can maybe I want to change the formatting a little bit, make it a little more like a paragraph instead of a tagline, or make it shorter. Or can also go in and change the tone. Maybe I want it more formal. I can do that and hit create draft. And now it's going to go back into that, language model and come up with new words. It usually takes a few seconds to kind of recompile that text. So now we have some sort of new wording that's maybe has a little more formal voice and less casual. Um, so at this point now, when I hit OK, now I have saved this to the item card as the marketing text. And from there, now if I navigate off a card and come back, it would stay. But it's like the point is you have to review it. You have to look at it, make sure it says what you want it to say. So this is, just the first step into AI for Business Central. It's going to keep coming, right? We all, we hear the news, we see the news. Doesn't matter where you consume your news. All you hear about is AI, and it's Chat GPT, it's this GPT, it's that GPT, it's this AI, that AI, whether it's graphics or music or whatever. So there are going to be some aspects of it in Business Central to help you with things like this, where you're creating some verbiage, or maybe you're searching for data. I don't know this, but I could certainly see where you could just open up a chat screen someday and say, show me all the transactions in June over $10,000. And if you had access to the GL entry table, it would bring you back that information. I could certainly see something like that happening where you're interacting with some sort of chat engine a little bit to do those like real world or kind of simple worded queries, as opposed to filter this and filter this column and filter that column on the GL entry page. Just type what you want and let the system find it for you. So just wanted to introduce that for a second, because that's kind of what we're seeing. Like I said, it's the very first kind of look into this. There are a variety of Copilot videos out there from Microsoft, and there's Copilot for Excel and some of the other business apps. So if you're interested, go ahead. There's some good videos on it just to get a feel for how Microsoft's trying to use AI, but still keep people in control, and be the final kind of arbiters of what's being done. So that's just a quick overview of that, and a quick overview of the general application changes. So I'm gonna flip back here to my PowerPoint slide. We covered all those. So now we're jump into some of the more core finance things. We've got statistical accounts now, which is which is in other applications, other accounting and ERP solutions, and now we have them in BC. We have a GL account review process, which is kind of like a reconciliation function, where you can track that in BC. The financial reports page has been optimized to give you a little more real estate on the screen, so you're seeing more of your financial statements and less of the filters. We've got some additional controls for posting policies and user setup, and we'll kind of go through that real quick. And then we'll just show you this a little bit better intercompany setup for those of you that are using a multi-company environment. So let's hop in real quick into that finance side and jump right into statistical accounts. So if we look at our statistical accounts, just quickly, just search for statistical accounts. Well, I set them up in the wrong company. So you could have this. So statistical accounts are for things like headcount or square footage. A couple of good examples. So if you if you wanted to track, have a metric on your financial statement for revenue per employee, or expenses per square foot, or something like that, you could do that. And so what you do is create a statistical account for those, then do on a monthly basis. If you wanted to have an accurate, put in your head count, do a statistical accounts journal to pull that up, and we say, for statistical account number head count. I had 20 people in my production department, and 40 people in admin, something like that. And so now I can post that transaction. It's going to register it to a statistical ledger And that's all great. But then what I can do with that, if I go to my financial reports, and we'll just kind of show where this where the setup is real quick. If I go into financial reporting and jump into, say, let's go into this revenues and edit the row definition. We've all seen this. These are all, pretty standard. We've seen all these before. But if I go to a new row and whatever, put in something called headcount, now I have statistical account here. So I have posting accounts where I can pick my posting accounts, or totaling accounts where I can, pick a totaling account from the general ledger. Or I could do account category, and I could use my GL account categories and subcategories to build my financial statements. Or now I can add the statistical account in here, so I could put in headcount as my statistical account. I think that's going to be 100. Yeah. And now if I ran the financial statement, I would get if I ran it by department, I would see there were 20 people in production and 40 people in admin for whatever period I posted that transaction. So in every month, you could do at month end, you could do a new head count and get that new number, or do the delta. Depends on how you want to manage it. Maybe it's +3 in sales and -6 in admin and +10 in production, as opposed to the actual head count, because just depending on how you want to sum your columns. But you can then get metrics like revenue per employee on your financial statements. So nice new feature to give you more information of how to get some of those nice management accounting metrics. We're looking at, let's just open that report. So some of these rows here, there's kind of more of a show more, show less. So we've got a few things that have been taken away in the show more. And again, that's just to give you a little more, real estate as we're looking at things on screen. Of course, I'm zoomed in a little close because it makes it easier for the presentation. And I'm on a smaller monitor anyway on my laptop. So if you're on a bigger monitor, you can zoom out and you have a lot more real estate to see your data and see your numbers and kind of track your information. From from this, like the pure accounting side, just that whole reconciliation piece that we do all the time. We take a look at, just drill into an account here. Take a look at the setup for the GL account review. So we can see here we have a review policy. This is a new field, review policy, and it's none or allow review, or an allow review and match balance. So if it's none and you try and do a review on this, it won't work. If it's allow review, then when you try and do the review, and we'll show that here in a sec, it'll actually, a different screen will pop up. And then allow review and match balance, there's just some additional tracking in there to make sure that as you're reviewing things, you're balancing things out as they reconcile. So we say we turn on allow review for this. And if I drill in on the balance, there's my GL entries. And I have a new review entries button here. And if I tick on that, it pops up a separate screen. There's a new reviewed column here. These are all unchecked. We've got quite a few options up here now. So if I'm going through and reconciling transactions throughout the month, maybe it's a deferred revenue account or deferred liability account as the staff account, and I need to reconcile those every Monday or whatever. I can go in and I can select multiple rows. As I'm going through my work and picking a few things, and those have been reviewed, so I can set them as reviewed, and now I get a date and time stamp of when that happened. I can, of course, set them as not reviewed if all of a sudden there's a problem, and I was like, whoop, there's some sort of question about this transaction. I can unreview it or kind of unreconcile it, if you will, so that I can deal with that transaction at some point. We can hide and show the reviewed entries, so you're just seeing everything that's been reviewed or everything has not been reviewed. If you're trying to manage a close process kind of thing, so nice little feature just to help that those staff accountants as they're reconciling the books throughout the month to say, okay, I've already looked at this transaction. I reconciled it, market reviewed, so I don't have to worry about it again, because then I can just hide it from my review screen and keep going. Mentioned there were better posting controls. So what that, it's a little oddly named new feature, but if we go to user setup, and this is something that if you've been in Nav or BC for a while, you've probably noticed this on the posting of purchase orders or sales orders. So a purchase invoice posting policy and a sales invoice posting policy. There's 3 options under here. Oh, let me put Jenny in here. It's either allowed, prohibited, or mandatory. So allowed means the posting routine works as it works today. So if you were to go post a purchase order, you get that little pop-up window that pops up and says, do you want to receive, invoice, or receive and invoice? So there's no change. That's why it's good to have that one first. Prohibited means that you cannot post a purchase invoice. So you don't even see it on the pop-up window. And mandatory means that the receipt and invoice will be posted at the same time. You don't have an option to not do that. So let's just show what that looks like. So if I change that to prohibited, because we kind of all know what the allowed looks like. It's the standard when you hit a PO and you hit post, it has a little pop-up window. So if I go to my purchase orders, I'll just go ahead and grab one here. And when I hit post, because I've put prohibited, that indicates that I don't even have the ability to invoice. I'm a inventory control shop floor guy, receiving clerk, whatever it is. So I don't even see I don't have to click that button, or maybe accidentally click the wrong button, hit OK, and then maybe it blows up and I get an error because I'm not allowed to post to the AP side, only the receiving side. So now I'm not even given the option. Do you want to post the receipt? Yes or no? If we go back to user setup real quick and change that to mandatory, see the difference is now when I try and post this, it's do you want to post the receipt and invoice? So mandatory, you will post the receipt and invoice at the same time. You don't have the option to do them separately. And maybe that makes sense. Maybe that doesn't make as good a sense on the purchase order side, but on the sales order, it might make sense where, well, when you ship it, we're invoicing the customer and we're going to send the invoice immediately. We're not going to wait to send it to accounting and have them do it. It's just we're going to have some sort of a, auto email process that runs that picks up that invoice and sends it as soon as we ship. So again, it's kind of a common theme that we've seen a lot in this release is trying to add more efficiency to the application. You don't have to click on those, different boxes all the time. It's just if you just set it for that user, and maybe for other users you don't do it that way, right? So for me, I might still need this ability to the traditional way to do it, but for the person working in the warehouse that's just going to the PO and invoice and doing the receipt against it, just do the receipt and move on. So that's what that posting control is. And then lastly, just intercompany. We're just going to touch on this briefly because there's quite a bit to this one, but just wanted to show, as we there's a whole new intercompany setup with your different where you can set up your intercompany partners, and with that you have your intercompany chart of accounts, and we do our chart of accounts mapping and we set up that partner. We're going to get this kind of left right view. So what's in the subsidiary, what's in the parent company, and how do we map those? So you're getting that better view of how to do it, as opposed to doing the other way. It was just much more difficult to do. This is just a much more efficient way to do that mapping because you're seeing kind of the from and to on the page at the same time. And there's quite a bit that's in the new intercompany functionality that if you're using true BC intercompany with multi-company operations, certainly I would suggest reaching out to John or the support desk, and we can get you hooked up with either April on the support desk or one of our consultants and can help you with that setup because there's quite a bit to it. And it's a little little too much to go through just in this brief 1-hour webinar. Those are some of the highlights from the accounting side. Some highlights from the operations side, and we're kind of keep moving here because we've got a couple more things to get through. So from operations, we're when we're creating our picks or our puts or inventory movements, there's some new filters on the request page. I'm going to show what those look like. Is you can say go pick for, say, a job, or pick for a production order, a production order line. There's just some better document navigation, just in general, within the warehouse side. And again, it's that whole efficiency thing. We're able to batch post transfer orders. Before you can only post them one at a time. Now you can go select 5 or 6 at once and do a post batch. The default dimensions on locations are kind of cleaned up a little bit. They're definitely working better. And it really deals with the order that you put things in. So what location what dimension is going to be used. We have the ability to auto post non-inventory line items. So if you have a PO for, say, 2 GL or 2 item lines and one with a GL line, maybe it's for some fees that are associated with the first things you bought, not necessarily freight charges. Before, when you received, you might have to go through 2 steps to post those things, and now we're just post them all at once. And then there are just a slew of navigation improvements for all the warehouse related transactions. So many that we can't show them. At the end, there'll be a QR code that you can take a picture with on your camera and take it to a link to Microsoft's release plan and the documentation for all this. You definitely want to go find that piece and just kind of, if you're using any sort of the warehouse operations, and just scan through all the different improvements. There's probably 10 or 15 improvements just on that one thing. So I'm going to hop in and briefly just show a couple of these, and then we'll continue on into some reporting improvements. So just quickly, if I go to a sales order, pick one here. I'm going to pick this open one. Let's start there. You notice that it's open. So when I say create the inventory put away or pick, we have some of the filters that were always there, but now if you scroll down a bit, we've got quite a few new filters that are auto set on the page. So if you just wanted to pick everything on a sales order for a specific job or for a specific production order or a specific variant, we're just better way to create those picks more efficiently. Just out of the box without having to change anything. Another thing to notice is this was open when I opened when I opened the sales order. The status was open, and by hitting create pick or put away, it released it automatically. Before, you'd have to click release and hit release and then do create inventory pick or put away or create warehouse shipment, depending on which process flow you're using. But either way, the status had to be released in order to do that. You don't have to do that now. So again, it eliminates a step. Now there could be another step in there that you're using. You might have an approval process turned on your sales orders, and those picks may not work if you have an approval process turned on. It's not going to auto release it because it has to go through an approval process. But if you're not using an approval process there, then most certainly we'll release it automatically. So it just kind of eliminates a step that is just redundant and sometimes frustrating. You're like, okay, I just need to get this, I need to get this out the door, create the shipment, and nothing happens. And oh yeah, I got to go release this and then do it. So again, it's one of those ways that Microsoft's looking to improve the efficiency of the front end. On transfer orders, just to show, give you an illustration on this real quick. If we have our transfer orders, we've got 2 here. I could do select more and click on, click on the 2 here. Or I could just hit shift and page up, shift page down, and that's going to automatically select those 2. And now you can see in here we have a post batch. We didn't have that before, so you had to post them one by one. We also now have the ability to undo transfer order shipments. couldn't do that before. So again, some nice, just new little features rolled out in the process. And a couple of the items here are a little trickier to show. Certainly on the transfer orders, for example, I think that the important thing on the dimensions, because we do have default dimensions on locations now. So as you're doing your transfer from and transfer from and to, so I'm saying transfer from the east warehouse and transfer to the, say, west warehouse. The dimensions that are populated will be whatever is chosen last. That makes sense. So we're saying from and to, so it's going to pick the dimensions from the west warehouse for that transfer order. If I go from west to east, then it's going to pick the dimension value from the east warehouse as the default dimension on the transfer order. So keep that in mind as if you're using that function, just how those dimensions flow, and it's always flowing in off the to. And like I mentioned earlier, there are so many just changes and improvements in the navigation on the warehouse side and on the logistics side that there's like too many to show just in the brief time we have. So at the end we'll definitely like I said, I'll have that documentation for you where you can go through the if you would like to go to the release plan and see all the items that were there. The area that I think we're seeing some of the most improvements in just functionality is on the report side. So wanted to run through two things here. One's a review of something that was released before, but don't know how many people have taken advantage of it yet. And the other is, again, it's another thing. It's in preview mode, but it's being able to create pivot tables on list pages within the application. So and do more in-app analysis. So let's take a look at those two things. We're going to take a look at that pivot table and then just kind of do a quick review on the report layouts, and then we'll wrap things up here. So on our list pages, those pages that look like Excel spreadsheets, right? The list page, whether it's the customer page or the vendor page or our general ledger entries page. And again, just in preview mode, it's only available in Sandbox, but I would encourage everyone to go create it. If you have a Sandbox environment, go into it and look at it, or go create one. If you need help with that, we can walk you through how to create a Sandbox environment. It's very simple. But if we go here you'll see this Analyze button. If I click on that, think for a second, and I've already got one built here, but it's going to bring up a column and analysis filters over here. So there's my kind of pivot table, pick list like that we've seen in Excel for how long, So I'm filtering on, or I'm grouping on general posting type and customer group code. So, it's type. This one is blank, so the blank posting type, and there's my customer groups, including blank customer group, and then for my sales posting type and small, medium, and large customer group, and then for my purchase, looks like most of the stuff under purchase just had a blank general posting type. So, I can expand on that, and then I can see all the transactions associated with it. We've got the sums that we like to see, total rows at the bottom. And then if I, highlight a few and hit my down arrow, now we're getting those Excel-like functions at the bottom where what's the average, what's the count, the min, the max, what's the sum of all those transactions. So that's an Excel analysis in Business Central. On top of just the columns, of course, you have the how do you want to filter this? So what are you filtering on the right? Specific GL accounts, specific posting dates where you can drag those filters in and do the filtering like you do just like a pivot table in Excel. And these are saved in your profile. So if I were to add a new tab here, I could create a whole new analysis with different groupings. And every time I go to the GL entry page and go into analyze mode, it's going to open up all the tabs that I have created over, the last 6 months. I have like 4 analyses. It's just going to pull them up and refresh them. And on top of that, we can export this to Excel. So it's not the export up here where you have the normal, like the share button where you can share to teams, edit in Excel, open in Excel. If you right click and do export to Excel, then it's going to create a little download file. That one isn't quite integrated with that open in Excel that we showed earlier. It's truly going to do the download and come up in Excel. And we give that a second. And it brings it in using the Excel. It doesn't bring it in as a pivot table. It brings it in as the Excel grouping features that have been there forever. So you can go through your different groups and expand and collapse as needed. So this personally, I think, was very slick. Don't see that. I haven't seen that anywhere before in any other types of applications where you're doing that pivot analysis on your entry table itself. So imagine that if you're doing an inventory reconciliation or a job reconciliation, and being able to go to your job ledger entry or your item ledger entry or your value entry and set up these pivot tables and do some groupings and to quickly get to some answers of why something's out of balance, or get a quick answer on what are my overall costs on all jobs for materials, and you just quickly get that answer right there on this simple little pivot table in BC, and they save as you create them. So pretty nice little feature that Microsoft is prototyping right now. So I encourage people to go look at this in a sandbox environment, because I think Microsoft's looking for feedback, and they're also just looking for usage and what is it, how are people grouping things, and how are people using it, so they can continue to build and improve on it. We expect this to be out in live maybe in 2 to 3 months, and they're really just kicking it around right now to see what the impact is of it and how the performance goes and things like that. So very, very nice feature that's coming. And like I said, right now it's in preview mode. And then last piece, just on reporting, I just wanted to, something we covered it was in our customer event about a year ago, and it's the ability to create Excel layouts for reports and then import them into BC so that the reports run as Excel. So I just wanted to show one here. So this is the item sales by customer report, standard report in the North America, in the United States database. If you were looking at this in a Norwegian database, you may not see this exact report. You might see something similar to it, but not the exact report. You can see I have a report layout here, item sales by customer Excel, or I can pick the regular out of the box report. This was I configured, just pretty easily. The item sales by customer in Excel. If we were to switch back to the regular format, hit OK here, I would need to what we do is we do send to Microsoft Excel document data only. That dumps all the data into Excel, and then from there, you can add pivot tables and pivot charts or whatever you want to it, and groupings and sums, and then upload that into BC as a new report layout. When you do that, it then shows up. It shows up in your pick list here, and I've set that Excel format as my default. And you can see for the Excel format, all I can do is download. I can't preview, I can't print. I just download it, and it's going to download to Excel. So I'm just going to run this. I'm not going to put any filters on it. Just let it go. And you can see, because I turned on the Excel integration, it's opening in Excel online as opposed to downloading to my computer and then going through the open close thing. But this is the data for the report. It's just a variety of columns and rows of all the information that makes up that report. And I just we just quickly made a quick little analysis tab off that data with a pivot table and a slicer for the pivot table, a little Pareto chart showing which items are used the most, kind of thing. It's something that I think that people can really utilize and really build some of those visualizations into their reports, and you're in BC, running the reports. Yes, we we talk a lot about Power BI. We talk a little bit about external reporting tools, like a Chronos data technologies kind of thing. But just for some reports, can certainly just do them in BC like this and make this part of the report. So when you run it, you get these types of charts and graphs and things like that. And you can do multiple tabs. You could have on here whatever you want. This is just a kind of a quick one just to show the capabilities, but really capabilities are limitless. It's, and if you don't see a report that fits the bill for what you want, then contact our support desk and we can build you a report that gathers all of the data that you want to see into one kind of data set for you. And then you can, with a little bit of training, and I mean a little bit of training, this is not hard. This is geared to be an end user reporting feature. You can go and export this data like this and go pick the columns you want to put in charts and pick the columns that you want to put in pivot tables, add your slicers, all those Excel tools that you're all experts at. We can get you the information in a format that you can then consume it into these reports and then upload that back into BC so that you can then just run that report and get this information the way you want it, as opposed to the way, some developer thought the report should look 10 years ago. So just wanted to touch on that feature again, because it's been out for about a year and it's, it's pretty stable. So we just kind of wanted to do a quick review on that one. We're about 5 minutes left in the show here. So just want to go through a couple of things, a couple more slides, and then we'll wrap it up. Quite a couple new features on the security side and the governance side. So from a security perspective, we now have the ability in your Azure platform to set up security groups and then set up those same security groups in BC and assign permissions to the security group. So as people are coming on board, with your company and they're a new, production controller, well, you can just assign them the production controller security group in Active Directory, and that will set up their permissions in BC. So you don't have to manage things in two places. So it makes it more efficient. There's some new features so that are going to be enabled automatically with this release. Some of these things were introduced 12 to 18 months ago, and there were a little bit bigger features. So you have to enable them manually through feature management, but Microsoft only gives you so much time to do that. So these few are being turned on automatically with this release when you do get it. If you want to do any research on these, just search for feature management in BC and click on Learn More. There's a little Learn More link beside it. That'll take you into the documentation of the feature and what it is and what it does. Most of these are pretty innocent. Support inventory picks and warehouse picks for jobs is a pretty big change that was introduced about 18 months ago to add more supply chain functionality on the job side. Country region update, 31 new countries now have localizations for BC. So if anyone's looking to open up a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands or Bermuda or the Bahamas, I'm sure it won't be hard to find volunteers to go and do that rollout. All right, so next steps. One, go into your admin center, make sure you have an update window set. And if you're not sure where the admin center is, if you're in BC, you click on the settings gear, and if you have access to it, we'll say that because there are some permissions associated with it in the Azure level. You can go to your admin center. You'll have your production environment, and then we've got 3 sandboxes here. You can have up to 3 sandboxes, but just go into your production environment. Make sure you've got an update window set here that fits your business. So if you're a shop that runs from 7 a.m. to midnight, then have the update window set between midnight and 3 a.m. kind of thing. Microsoft will respect that. They're not going to push an update out on you in the middle of your business day. If you need to change it, just hit modify, and you can change the time and time zone and set your update window. Review the new features that are in feature management. So there are some new features in this release that need to be enabled through feature management. So take a look at some of those bigger ones that may cause some navigation changes, things like that. And if you have questions, reach out to John and we can get one of our consultants in touch with you and we'll, work through, help you understand what those things do. All right. And then lastly, the last next step, that QR code takes you to the release plan for this, for Wave 1 2023, has documentation of all of the new features. We probably covered 65, 70% of them. Just had to pick the highlights for this session. And then, of course, if you need, I've said it a couple times, if you need assistance with any of these new features, shoot a note over to our support desk or contact John directly, and we can get the ball rolling and get you in touch with, get your consultant plugged in with you and help you with, some of the new setups and review the new features with you. And with that, I've left a couple of minutes for questions, but not many, and there's a lot to cover. So any questions from that real quick run through?
I've enabled everyone's microphones. Oh, actually, I see there's a question. Do these features, are they on the on-prem version, Mark?
Yes, they will be. Now, some of them we might want to investigate a little bit. Because I think the short answer is yes. For all the in-application features, yes. Whether it's new navigation with warehouse documents or eventually when the pivot table thing comes out, that's going to be in the on-prem version. However, some of the things that may integrate with Excel Online, those, my speculation is they are, but you need to have that integration set up with your on-prem version and your Microsoft 365 environment. If you don't have that set up, we can help you with that. So that's how I think I'd answer that question.
Now we get another question. What if they don't want to open up Excel Online?
Sure. Then if you don't want to open up Excel Online, then we just don't do the, let me just pull this up real quick. There's a setup that I did real quick, and I mean real quick. It's called OneDrive Setup. And you don't hit the next button. That's literally it. That's it. If you don't go through that process, it will work just like it does today and download to your local and your downloads folder, and you open up Excel. So you just have to enable this piece. And I think you hit next. Well, that takes 2 steps. Next, and then you toggle these on, and then hit next and finish. So as long as you don't do those couple of setup steps, you're good. Plan for built-in EDI features. That's a good question. I've seen nothing on the roadmap that indicates that's there. It's such a EDI is a pretty heavy lift, right? So it's, in general, they've always leveraged the partner channel for that. But you know what? If you asked me 5 years ago, does Microsoft have plans to do master data management in BC? I would have said, not that I know of. And, we would have directed folks to, a binary stream kind of thing to do that master data management. And now here, 5 years later, they're doing it in the application. So it's hard to say what they're going to go to, but my hunch on that one is that's a very smaller subset of their customer base that needs EDI. So that's probably down the list on their things to do. But that's just speculation. I can, never ask the question. I'm just speculating there.